If we're friends, I know what could hurt you, but I'm not going to go there because I care about you.
It's knowing someone's buttons and choosing not to press them.
You only do that with your friends. What's up, fam? Welcome back to our channel. My name is Tim. This is my beautiful wife, Pauline, and you're tuning in to another episode of the W Podcast where you get wisdom in the word with the
Wheeler.
Hey, so we are so excited to continue in our Storytime series. If you're new here, our Storytime series is simply an opportunity, one, for y'all to get to know us a little bit more and hear some stories about our dating, engagement, maybe even marriage, but not just hear about our relationship, but more so, how does this apply to you? What can you take from the story, some of our mistakes, some of the things we've done well, and apply it to your relationship, whether that's now or in the future? So we're really excited. We got a great topic. We're talking about friendship in a relationship. I feel like that's one of the most underrated things in a quality relationship is the friendship. Mm-hmm. So many people want to be in love. So many people want to have great sex. So many people want to have a lot of money. But one of the backbones of a healthy relationship, in our opinion, is friendship. Actually, in JDU, Just Dating University, that's actually one of the first things we talk about. Because if you don't get friendship right in your relationship, it's going to be hard to get a long, healthy marriage right. Like, you really got to have that friendship piece. And we'll break that down more. But the story that we're talking about that really highlights that comes from a time when we were just dating.
Right.
And we were traveling to Boston.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
I don't remember why. I think it was the first time you came in the summer.
So
it was like a July or August.
For those who don't know, Pauline is from Boston. That's where her family is. And we met and dated in Maryland. So we weren't long distance, but in order for me to really get to spend time with her family, I would have to travel up there. It didn't happen a lot. I probably did it once, two. It really was two.
It was once in that August when we went back up for my brother's senior night in January.
Right, but this was the first time I went.
Yes.
So long story short, we traveled to Boston, went to go see our family. But this story is actually about what happened before we got there on a plane. So we were on a plane traveling to Boston. It's about an hour flight from Maryland. So we were sitting on the flight. I don't know about y'all. I'm the type of person, I don't want to talk to nobody when I'm on the flight.
Driver.
Don't talk to me. You sit in your little seat, your little crevice that they give you. I'm going to sit in my little space and let's just not talk. I feel like you're open to a conversation.
I feel like I was more open back then. Nowadays, I want my music quiet.
But you were open to conversations back then, and I don't even know how this lady started talking to us, but it was me and you. Was she on the end? I think she was.
I was in the middle.
Yeah, I was on the window seat. I was at the window, you were in the middle, and she was next to you. So praise God she wasn't next to me, because you could just talk to her. Anyway, me and Pauline were talking, we're laughing, we're doing what we do, and throughout the flight, I guess the woman who was sitting next to Pauline noticed it. And it was just so interesting that she decided at some point during the flight, maybe it was when we landed, I don't remember, but I just remember she looked over at us and was like, did she ask us a question, or did she just say the statement?
I think she said the statement. Yeah. I don't think she asked a question.
Yeah, she just looked over at us and said, like, you two seem like really good friends. And that statement may sound so simple, it may sound dumb to you, but for us, it was really profound, and honestly was very, I was honored that she would say that, because we really prided ourselves on trying to be great friends. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if we knew it as much as we know now, like how important friendship is to a relationship. Like, were you aware of that, or?
Of course not. I mean, as much, but you learn so much more the longer you're, in a relationship.
How did that hit you when she said that?
Well, I think for me, it meant a lot, because at that time, of course, if you all have listened to us for a while, we're very big on boundaries and protecting your purity and your mindset and things like that. We always encourage physical boundaries, emotional, all the boundaries when you are in a dating relationship. But mostly we encourage that because we know how hard it is to how hard it is to keep boundaries. And that was very much our story in our dating relationship. God definitely kept us, and His grace was with us the whole time. But it wasn't like we didn't want to cross the boundaries and cross the lines. So I think for us, or for me, hearing that that statement and that compliment meant a lot to me because I knew how hard, like, every single day we worked to respect each other's bodies, and not act like we were, a married couple, act like we were privileged to one another. And I guess I was still, back then, very much aware of the mindset of, like, okay, a lot of couples who are dating, saved or not, but mostly unsaved, like, they're all over each other all the time. And it's very much like, oh, this is how, like, we express ourselves, this is how we communicate, it's through touching, through kissing, through all of, like, these physical expressions. And it can feel very uncomfortable for other people. And I know that, like, nowadays, like, PDA is, when you're married, it's, like, so different because obviously you don't have to do it. Well, you don't never have to. You have more opportunities to be alone when you are married, you live together, all those things. So I think that, PDA it seems very normal when you are not married because you're thinking, well, this is all, like, we kind of have to express each other, and, like, you're apart for a long period of times. When you come together, the tension is very high. So for me, it spoke to the fruit of self-control that God had been bearing through me and through you individually.
How so? I'm just really interested because I just did not take it like this, and it's just interesting to hear your perspective.
Yeah, because I think that...
Because when I hear friendship, I'm not thinking about what you're saying.
Well, and that's the thing is she didn't know that we were dating. I think I told her eventually, yeah, we've been together for this, amount of time. We had gotten talking about, oh, why are you going to Boston? Why are you going to Boston? Just sharing the purpose for each other's trips. So I eventually, told her that we were in a relationship. And I think, there are so many couples... especially when you think of married couples where it just doesn't seem like they like each other. Yeah. And the friendship is not very strong. It's kind of like, oh, we have to do this because we're married and, this is what's expected of us or whatever. And we never wanted to be like that. We still don't want to be like that now. So for me, it was very much like a compliment of you guys seem to really enjoy one another and have fun together. You also just don't see that a lot. I feel like you see either one extreme when it comes to, like, just the spectrum of relationships from dating all the way to marriage, of where they're all over each other and it's awkward and it's uncomfortable for other people. Or the other end of it's also uncomfortable for other people because it seems like you're always fighting and that you hate each other. So to be in the middle of that and to feel like be pleasant and to be, like, enjoyable for her to be around was very much, a compliment to me because we always, even now, we always want to be that couple where we can be with one other friend, and, like, we don't ever want to make anyone feel like a third wheel where they're, like, interrupting, what we have going on, but we want to be welcoming. We want to think, yeah, come sit with us, like, even it's us two, but we'll make it feel like us three, and, we've always kind of been like that. I feel like our friendship between each other makes it easier to make friends with other people, too.
Yeah. And here's why friendship in a relationship is so important, because if you're honest with yourself, you're more likely to do something that you don't want to do for a friend than even somebody in your family who you may love. Because we all got family members who we love, but we don't really like them.
Family has this thing about, like, guilting you into doing stuff.
Usually if somebody is your friend, that means you like them. And I think I think that's somewhat what you were alluding to when we think about older married couples who may not be happy. And it's because they don't really like the person they're married to. They're kind of with them because...
Or they don't know the person anymore.
They're committed to marriage and they're committed to sticking it out for the kids or whatever it may be, but they don't actually like being with that person. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so important that you learn how to like being with the person that you're with, because that'll help you do things in marriage that you need to do to keep a marriage going. Like, marriage requires sacrifice. Marriage requires commitment. That's so much easier to do when you actually like the person you're doing it with.
Right, and it may not even feel like sacrifice. And, like, we all had jobs before where you're like, I hate this job, but I love the people that I do it with, so it doesn't feel as much as burdensome. Or you can be loving what you're doing, but you don't love the people that you work with, and work usually comes with more drama, more stress. In those situations, just who you are doing life with matters so much.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bible has a really good verse, and I lost it, so I just want to pull it up real quick, that kind of highlights what we're talking about in John 15:13. Most of y'all know this verse, and it's the one that talks about there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friend. It's just interesting that when it comes to friendship, the Bible is saying that there's no greater love than that. Like, it doesn't even say, like, marriage. Like, there's no greater love than to lay one's life down for your spouse. Like, it doesn't say that. It says there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friend. And that's the beauty about marriage, is that verse could be applying to marriage, because hopefully your spouse is your friend. But if they're not, you want to be mindful of that.
Right, and usually that's where we see a lot of turns in relationships and in marriages, is when we stop nurturing that friendship.
Yeah.
And you lose respect for one another, you stop enjoying one another, you stop being curious about each other's interests and passions, and then that can easily turn into your enemy.
Yeah. So let's just go there. Let's just go there and help the people. What are some suggestions you would give if somebody was like, yeah, that sounds good, but I don't really know how to build a friendship with the person I'm in a relationship with?
Yeah, and it's so interesting because, we're... whenever we tell our story about how we got together, like, we always say, yeah, we were friends first, and so many people kind of like, people think like, oh, that's so great, or other people think like, kind of snarl at it, like, oh, like that's not like the best way. How can you kind of be friends with somebody if you like them, that type of thing. And I shouldn't say I prefer to be friends with people before I dated them, but I do think that if you can, you should. And I think this day and age, it's so hard. And like, can you meet somebody on a dating app and build a great relationship and friendship at the same time and then have a great marriage? Absolutely, you can. You're not skipping steps. Sometimes you can do things simultaneously depending on how mature you are and how skilled you are. But you're still building that friendship at the end of the day, versus a story like ours where we built the friendship first before there was any like romantic interest. So I think that it's important because, so I'm saying that because so many people want to skip the friendship step. And they're like, oh, well, I'm not attracted to them, or I am attracted to them, so then I don't even consider being their friend. And I just want to date them. And I think that you're doing yourself a disservice if you're in that situation, because although it's good, of course, to be attracted to somebody, and that is an important part of a relationship that you're hoping will lead to marriage, but it's not the most important part, and it's something that is very kind of on like the short-term priority list. I don't want to say shallow, because I don't think that is a good word to describe it either. But all that to say, definitely don't underrate friendship when it comes to relationships. And
so what's something practical?
So I think 3 things that come to mind when you're thinking about, okay, how can I build a friendship, is first to be curious. Be curious about the other person, just the same way when you were in school. Maybe you were curious about, the major that you were in, and you had some interest in that, and you wanted to know, like, how does X, Y, and Z work together? I know what happens in this scenario or that scenario. You want to have that same curiosity, and I'm a big believer of, like, just because you leave school doesn't mean you stop learning, and that applies to every area of your life, especially when it comes to relationships. And so be curious about the person that you're with, or that you want to be with, or even just your friends, the platonic friends that you have now. Be curious about them. So I talk about this with my friends sometimes. Some of us have an understanding of what our friends' jobs are, and some of us don't. Like, sometimes you can say what their title is. And I have a good friend who is a software engineer, and it's kind of like talking through, like, when we were in college, it was kind of like everything was over my head. She talked to me about JavaScript, all these different languages, and I was like, that is not my thing. But taking the time to be curious about her profession, it just helped me gain so much more respect for her, because I was like, oh wow, like, this is hard what you're doing, but it's also such a great skill and very valuable. And taking that same curiosity, of course, with your friendship with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and then just your regular friends as well. So the first thing is just being curious. So even if you don't like basketball, try to learn. Like, try to be like, even if you don't like it, find out what it is that they like about it. So you don't have to become a fan of what it is that they do, but you want to be supportive of what they love about it.
Yeah, because I think everybody feels special when someone takes interest or a liking to something that they are doing.
Right.
So it's like, wow, like one of our podcasts we did recently with Raph and Karen, he talked about how much it was special when she sat down and watched the whole football game.
Right.
With her. Not that she understood it or
even
realized what was going on, but just the fact that she would take the time to do that was something that was very special.
Yeah, just trying and like, okay, if this is important to you, it's important to me, and that doesn't mean you have to watch football or read software engineering books on your own time. It just means like
software engineering for dummies.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there. There's YouTube videos about everything, clearly. So yeah, that's what the first thing is, to be curious. The second thing is, and it's probably arguably the most important, is respect. So you can't have a friendship, or healthy friendship, or really any healthy relationship with anybody without respect. And you have to give it. Hopefully the person you're with or that we're talking about here is healthy and gives it to you as well. But you have to have like no-go zones. There has to be certain things that you will not say and that you will not do in your friendship with your partner or with your platonic friends. So like, I'm not going to call you out your name. I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm not going to, use vulnerable moments that you've shared with me against you at all, but especially not in times of conflict and try to say, well, that's why you because of what happened in your childhood. You don't you just have certain because those things are going to be very distracting.
You're less likely to really, when you're in a disagreement with somebody, you're less likely to go as far as you could go if they're your friend. Right. Like if we're friends, I know what could hurt you, but I'm not going to go there because I care about you.
It's knowing someone's buttons and choosing not to press them.
You only do that with your friends.
Right. So, because a lot of times we know a lot more vulnerable things about our partners or about our spouses, and it can be very tempting. The enemy knows that, and he wants you to destroy your relationship and tear it. And the Bible literally talks about that, especially for women, tearing down your house with your words. And you don't want to do that or be that type of person. So second would definitely be respect. You need to respect your friend, respect your partner, and hopefully they will respect you in return. But even if they don't, you need to still decide to be respectful.
Well, if you're dating and they don't, get out of
there. Right, so that's the second thing. The first one, be curious, be respectful. And the last one is to have fun. Like, you really need to laugh a lot to really be friends with someone. How can you be friends with someone if you don't have a good time? I feel like that's the first thing we think about of friendship is like laughing, having a good time together, going out together.
Do you feel like people struggle in dating with the balance of... Because I feel like there's some people who they have too much fun and like their dating relationship is only about fun.
Yeah.
And then there's people, especially in the Christian space, who it's too serious and it's like everything is deep and I gotta figure out, are you my spouse now? And it's like, let's just chill out.
Yeah, there definitely is this thing of balance, or not a balance, but there's a struggle with knowing the right time to kind of be in which mode, and it's going to be different for everybody depending on like where you are in life, and usually people, the older they are, the shorter time they date, and there's kind of more of those serious conversations. But you definitely need to be having fun throughout. Like, you can have a laugh in the car and then have a serious conversation and then, laugh on the phone at night. I think definitely thinking that's one of the things that we promised each other when we got married, was to make each other laugh every day, because we know how important. I mean, the Bible says that joy or laughter is like medicine to the soul. And life is hard, y'all, especially when you get married. You're in everything together, and it can just be very tough. It can be very discouraging if it's just all business all the time. So if you're one of those people who struggles with, I'm just, I'm business, and I get stuff done. I especially feel like that now in like our generation, people are so big on like, I want a queen, I want a king, I want someone to build an empire with, I want somebody to take on the role, you have to be on my level, like I make this amount of money, you gotta make the same or more, or I got this many degrees, you gotta have the same or more. That's cool, I guess, if that happens, but I definitely don't think that should be your priority, because although there are a lot of couples who have a business together, and that's a beautiful thing, if that's what you're called to do. But at the end of the day, if your business dissolves, your marriage should still be strong.
Yeah. You said something that's really good that I think people need to pay attention to And that's when you get married, there is a lot of business that gets in play, whether it's talking about bills, whether it's talking about your kids doing something in school, whether it's talking about where you're going to live next. Like, there's so many things that come with being married that can take away from your friendship. It's really important that you want to build that strong foundation in dating. And there's something that I think is so underrated in dating, and that's going on dates. Like, it's
dates.
It's amazing to me how many dating couples don't actually date. Like, they don't actually go on dates. Like, yes, you are around them. You guys hang out. You may sit on the couch. You may be at an event or a function. But you don't necessarily have, hey, every Friday, every Saturday, every Tuesday, whatever it is, twice a month, there's going to be some time where we're intentionally having a date where we're going out and it's just us. We're just spending time together intentionally. And that's so important, I believe, to start in dating.
Yeah.
Because the habits you start in dating will carry over into marriage, and marriage only amplifies everything.
Right.
And if you're in a marriage, like everyone who married is, and there's business that starts coming into play, if you don't know how to take a pause, whether it be once a week, twice a month, once a month, to just go on a date with your spouse, to be able to have that fun, it's going to be really hard to find time to have fun. As crazy as that sounds.
And I love what you said about making sure that you start that habit when you're dating, because that's honestly the easiest time for you to do it. You don't have as much business going on. You don't have kids yet. You don't have a house yet. You don't have,
Or you may have a house, but it's just different.
Well, not together.
Right.
But, yeah, you're not talking about chores and groceries and just all the things, all the practical things that come with running a family and running a household. And I know for us now, like having a child and being parents, if we did not build the habit of doing date night, I don't know that we would do it now. Like, we didn't start it 7 years ago when we were dating and we were just dating. Because honestly, y'all, being an adult, I know y'all already tired from being an adult, and it's so true. It's like way harder than we thought it was going to be. But and for those of you who are already parents, you already know, but adding that on top of schedules and then having kids, like, a lot of times, y'all, we don't even really want to go out for date night, but we've already built the habit. It'd be so much easier just to stay at home, order pizza, and watch a movie.
But that's not going to help you build your relationship as much as taking an intentional time.
Right, and it's always just kind of remembering that in every relationship, whether it's your relationship with God, with your spouse, with friends, whatever, you're either drifting apart or you're growing closer together. So if you're not actively doing something to bring you and your partner together, then you're drifting apart. Like, it's good to talk on the phone, it's good to text all day or whenever you can, it's good to stay connected, but you can only be so close texting and talking on the phone. You can only be so close or get to know each other better when you're just watching TV together. You want to be intentional. Like, let's go out, let's have a new experience together, let's have conversations we've never had before, let's challenge ourselves. Very much like working out. Like, you do the same workouts over and over again, your body's going to get used to them and they're not going to be effective anymore. You have to try new things. So definitely, if you're dating and watching this, or if you're not dating yet, like, make a promise to yourself, like, I am going to honor date night, and because I'm building that habit now to have a strong marriage.
Yeah, that's so good. One other thing I want to talk about, and friendship plays a part in this. Anybody who does anything great in life, anybody who maximizes the things that God wants them to do in their life, they need people that will hold them accountable. It's hard to do stuff by yourself. You got to be really strong-willed. You got to be really determined.
And how long is that? That may only work for a certain time.
So you need accountability, and real friends hold each other accountable. And that's one of the beauties of marriage, is if you have a friend, they can hold you accountable, not in a mean way, not in an aggressive way, but hey, you said you wanted to do this, like, what happened with that? Like, they can just easily help remind you, whether it's remind you of what you said, remind you of what God says about you. It's so important to have that, but really, you're only going to do that with somebody you're really friends with on a consistent basis. The Bible says it like this: better is an open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. I think that's so important because if somebody is really your friend, you can trust that the feedback they're giving you, though it hurts, like sometimes constructive criticism can hurt and feel like a wound. Though it hurts, it's actually for your good.
Right.
But somebody who's not your friend, a lot of times they're not going to hold you accountable. They're just going to give you kisses,
Right.
like the Bible says, that aren't really going to help you move forward.
That's so good. I'm glad you brought that up because I think I've seen some marriages, where a person feels betrayed if their spouse is not on their side about something or doesn't agree with them. And I've been there, and it can feel painful, but also I think remembering that we are friends and we do have a friendship. And like Tim would not tell me this if he didn't think I needed to know, or if it wasn't for my good, because, and remember, like, you're my friend, he loves me, he's for me, and also knowing, when I've had those times I give that same constructive feedback to you, and it's not something that I'm like excited to do. It's not something where I'm like, oh man, like
I'm about to tear him up.
Like, I'm about to just hurt his feelings. And of course, you try to say everything with as much gentleness and much love, but also with clarity and truth, and that's what the Bible says, that we need grace and truth. It's not just one or the other. And someone who's only gracious to you is an enabler. They're not really a friend. You want someone who is helping you. Like, a good friend is going to help you get closer to God, get closer to your goals, closer to your purpose. Not someone who's just going to be like, oh, all fun and all curiosity, and they respect you, but there's no challenge, there's no accountability, there's no help. Like, you should be able to look back on your life and say, man, I wouldn't be where I am today if X, Y, and Z person didn't help me, if they didn't give me that feedback, they didn't give me those suggestions. But I think that it is very easy to push those people away, or push them away in times of getting that feedback when you haven't been on the other side of giving it and knowing how important it is. So if you're one of those people who has a hard time with that, if you're like, dang, like, my boyfriend, every time he gives me feedback, like, he hurts my feelings, and it's like, well, isn't that he's hurting your feelings? Or that you just are being a little bit sensitive, towards what he's saying. And that's what you have to ask yourself, like, do I really trust this person? Do I really trust, their friendship and the love that they have for me? But also, maybe if you struggle with giving that feedback, then it's going to be hard for you to receive it too.
Yeah, that's really good. You may be watching this and you're like, I'm not even in a relationship right now, so like how does this really help me? And that's one of the things we love. We feel like a lot of the principles that help you have a godly relationship, you can start doing with your friends now. Not somebody you're dating, but just your friends. Whether it be the friends that if you're a girl, it's your girlfriends, or if you're guys, it's your male friends. Like, you can start doing that with them now. You can start holding them accountable. You can start sacrificially loving them. You can start doing things that friends do in a relationship, but you're doing it to your friends, and that'll help you start building those skills for when you actually do get in a relationship.
Right.
So, this has been another episode of the W Podcast. We hope it was enlightening, encouraging, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video.
To get more Christian relationship advice, subscribe to our channel.
And make sure you check out our other videos as well.